Hey y'all, it's me, Cindy Fessler, your fellow Christian warrior, here to help you know more so you can share more and grow more of God's kingdom. So, if y'all haven't already done this, you know what to do. Please make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button so that more people can see this video. More Christians can know how to share their faith with others. Thanks so much. Number 4, it can help solve problems in interpretation. Studying the Bible background can help solve problems that occur in Scripture. An understanding of the customs, language, geography, and politics of the day can help us understand certain difficult sayings and events. Many difficulties have been solved when further knowledge of biblical times came to light. There are difficulties that remain, naturally, but the constant flow of new information from that part of the world continues to remove Bible difficulties. It may explain the phrase baptized for the dead. For example, background information from the time of Christ may also be key in understanding Paul's statement to the Corinthians about the practice of baptizing for the dead. He wrote this: "Otherwise, what will they do who are baptized for the dead, if the dead do not rise at all? Why then are they baptized for the dead?" 1 Corinthians 15:29. So the phrase baptized for the dead has puzzled Bible commentators. Indeed, one recent study over 200 different interpretations of what Paul may have meant. It's a lot of interpretations. Do the practice of the Pharisees provide the answer? It has been contended that some knowledge of the first century Jewish practices with respect to ceremonial cleansing may provide the key to answering this puzzle. We know that one religious group, the Pharisees, observed a number of rules and regulations in addition to those which were revealed in Scripture. They made up their own stuff, right? They created all these rules and regulations. So many of these rules had to do with ritual defilement. To deal with the problem of defilement, they would ceremonially wash themselves in a ritual bath. They would practice these sorts of washings on a daily basis. The Pharisees also believed in the resurrection of the dead. Therefore, to ritually prepare the body for a burial, they would perform one last washing on it. This act would rid the person of all ceremonial defilement in preparation for the next life. The ceremonial washing may have been what Paul is referring to in 1 Corinthians 15:29. Paul's question would thus mean, if the dead do not rise, then why are you washing them? In other words, why are you preparing people for the next life if there is no bodily resurrection? In this case, the Greek word baptizo, transliterated as baptize in our English version, would have the idea of ceremonially washing or cleansing the dead. It would not be a reference to water baptism. Thus, it would not refer to proxy baptism, a living person being baptized in water in the place of one who had died. Consequently, Paul's phrase would be better translated baptism of the dead, not baptism for the dead. While this is not the only possible way to understand Paul's phrase, it may indeed be what he had in mind. So number 5, it can fill in the gaps of our knowledge. So there's a final reason to study biblical history. It can help fill in the gaps of our knowledge. Gaps in the biblical records can be filled in by studying the historical background, right? It is important to realize that the scriptures are only selective in what they record. In fact, John made a point of this when he wrote in his gospel. He said, Jesus performed many other miracles that his disciples saw. Those miracles are not written in this book, but these miracles have been written. So these miracles that I did write about have been written so that you would believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and so that you will have life by believing in him. John 20:30-31. So John emphasizes that Jesus did many more miracles than the ones recorded in his gospel. John's account is therefore selective of the signs which Jesus performed. This selectivity is something which we find in the entire Bible. Scripture was written for the purpose of explaining who God is, what he has done in history, and how we human beings fit into his overall plan. When historical events are recorded, it is always with reference to the main purpose of Scripture. In other words, history is never given just to satisfy our curiosity. Therefore, many nations, cities, places, and individuals are mentioned in Scripture with no further explanation. They are mentioned because they play some sort of part in the biblical story. Since only the minimum is said about them, we have to rely on information from other sources to kind of help fill in the gaps. And this is where the science of archaeology comes in. Time and time again, we find that the biblical accounts are clarified by secular evidence from the ancient world. Therefore, we find that numerous reasons exist as to why a study of the historical background of the Bible is the utmost importance. And it is an essential field of study for those of us who want to know more about the Bible and the times in which it was written. And guys, why is this important? This is important because so many times when we're talking to non-believers or unbelievers and we're witnessing to unbelievers, this kind of thing comes up, that it's unreliable, that these stories were made up, that they're not real. This information that you've got here now refutes that. So now you have a better understanding. You can ask better questions when you're witnessing to a non-believer. So let's sum it up. Why should the historical background of the Bible be studied? The study of the historical background of Scripture is essential in confirming the truth of the Bible record, along with clearing up certain difficulties that arise in the text. Background studies also help with our interpretation of Scripture, giving us a better understanding of the times and customs when these events transpired. And that's another thing that you hear from non-believers, or what I like to call pre-believers, is that interpretation of the Bible could be, there's so many different ways it could be understood. Well, here by studying biblical history, we get clarification on exactly what the interpretation should be on those, especially when it comes to those critical pieces of Scripture where the doctrine is really important, where the rubber meets the road, I guess you could say. So for these reasons, the study of the historical background of Scripture is important for our learning more about the Bible, and that makes us better witnesses, better able to defend our faith, better apologetic folks. All right, thanks so much for listening, y'all. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. I am so excited that you stuck to it to the end, and I appreciate that. And please do smack that subscribe button. Check out the next video.